When we were doing started performance manager, I told you we have two methods of arranging the costs that we identify. What are the two methods or techniques?
Specific and uniform.
No, that's for identification. To identify costs, you use two methods. To arrange costs, you use two methods too. To control costs, you use two methods. So the arranging of costs, what did I tell you that is? How do you cost? What are
I said marginal or contribution method.
that is one. So,
And absorption.
beautiful, brilliant student. That is absorption. Total cost method. Recovery method. That's absorption. Beautiful. So, I now said something in making decisions. We always like to use marginal cost method, which is same as variable cost. And the elements of variable cost is direct material, direct labor, and variable overhead or direct expenses and variable overhead, because all the overheads are classified into two: variable overhead and fixed overhead. So the variable part of it, we have to separate it, put it in the variable part of our marginal cost technique of arranging costs. Then we will now use total cost as a period. The fixed cost will be a period cost. That is, it will be like a budgeted. So most times we will not, disturb ourselves trying to do what, trying to, make our unitize our fixed cost. So the fixed cost is taken, or the fixed overhead is taken as a total. That is period cost. The period. If it's 1 year, if it's 1 month, if it's 2 months, if it's 3 months, we take the total as it is given and apply it. But you unitize your variable cost. The variable cost per unit is a relevant cost. So you understand? So you unitize it. And when you unitize it, you can even get your total. If you get your unit, you get your variable cost in unit, you'll be able to get your in unit. All of them is constant. It's always constant. Variable cost is constant. Selling price unit is constant. And
Your line is breaking.
That's why. Okay. Unit is constant. Sales per unit constant, and what's that makes that your contribution per unit will constant. I told you that in the long run, you know that variable cost per unit is always constant. The same thing, irrespective of what, irrespective of the level of activity. You need to separate variable cost as a behavior. So we are looking at, when we talk about behaviorism of our costs, behaviorism of our costs, when we talk about it, we'll be looking at setting the variable from the fixed cost, most especially when we are getting variable cost. And so variable cost is actually those costs that varies and subsequently what the vary directly with the level of activity. Subsequently, they are fixed. I gave an example of step cost. That's depreciation. If you buy assets, you have to depreciate it. So if you depreciate, if you have additional asset, if you depreciate, what will happen to your depreciation? Your depreciation will increase. They remain fixed. So it will vary. When it increases, it means it's vary. If you look at, let me put it on the board. I'll never stop doing this. I told you that. Let's say this is your fees depreciation 100, 0. This is your cost side, and this is your level of activity. LOA, which is also the X and the Y. So many times your depreciation is fixed. That's why it's an overhead. It's fixed and it's an estimate based on depreciable assets, the value of your depreciable assets. You get your depreciation for a period. There's a period of 1 year. So subsequently, within the year, if you buy what is called an asset, you have to start depreciating it, the asset, particularly assets that have depreciable value. So if you depreciate it, it will vary, it will go up, then it will remain fixed for a period. Then if you buy again, it will go up and remain fixed. It goes up and remain fixed. Now, when you finish depreciating an asset, what will happen? It will come down. It will vary. It was fixed before, but immediately you stop depreciating, it come down and clean up. So it's like coming down a staircase. But when you are adding, it's like going up a staircase. Are you following me? It's like going up a staircase. So that is step cost. We call it step cost because it looks like cost. It looks like step cost. Example of step cost is depreciation. Depreciation. An example of a step cost is depreciation. So that is as it is on the report. So what is there is that when you have semi-variable costs like that or semi-fixed costs, because either you call it is a matter of nomenclature or semantics. If you call it semi-fixed costs, you are correct. If you call it semi-variable costs, you are correct. But most times you leave it as a semi-variable cost. So you have to do a separation of that cost. You have to remove the variable element of it, add it to the variable cost, so that you can minus the variable cost from the sales price to get your contribution in arranging your costs. So we are looking at how do we go about separating costs based on level of activity, such costs. How do we go about so we are looking at cost estimate and behavior. So many times our total semi-variable cost will now be variable cost plus fixed cost. We can represent it using y equals to y equals a plus bx. Y, which is total semi-variable cost, equals to a. Where a is bx. Where a is a fixed cost. Don't forget, I told you that fixed cost is treated as period cost and also in total. So y equals to a plus bx. What it means is that a is a fixed cost and b is variable cost per unit. Variable cost per unit. To now get the total variable cost divided by x, which is, if you look at the S line, which is the quantity side, which is the level of activity. You understand? That's the level of activity. If you look at my graph above, you will see S sign on the horizontal line. Then the Y side on the what's it called? On the vertical line. But this Y actually is the total semi-variable cost. It's like you are looking at the total semi-variable cost. So it's not the Y you see there, the cost, but the total semi-variable cost. That's what Y is. So you can say where Y equals the total variable cost. A is equals to fixed cost, total fixed cost, and B equals to variable cost per unit. So many times we want to know variable cost per unit. If you have our Y, if you have your Y, it will be easy, and you have your quantity, it will be easy to do what? To separate it. It will be easy for you to separate it. So we have different methods of separating cost. Different methods of separating cost. We have the high and low method. We have the high and low method. We have the range method, which is the same thing as high and low method, which is range method. We look at the range from range 1 to range last and be able to separate the cost, to be able to separate cost. We also have number 2. We have the scatter diagram method, scatter graph method, or scatter diagram method. That's number 2. That's number 2. Then we have the last one, regression analysis method or technique. Regression analysis method or technique. Regression analysis method or technique. Now, for high and low method, we will start with high and low method. And we call it range method. What we are actually looking at is the range. Is the range from one place to the other. So I want us to start with the simplest one.
Huh? I can't hear you. Come again for number 2.
Number 2, I will repeat it again for recording purpose. Number 1, separate the cost. Find the closest estimate of the element and the variable cost per machine hours. Number 2, Roman figure 2. Calculate the total cost likely in week 8 if the expected level of machine hour is 8,000 and 2,000. Sorry, 12,000. If the level of machine hour is 8,000 and 12,000 respectively. That is a question you are required. So I want you to read the body of the question now. Go ahead and read the body of the question.
You have been asked to prepare an analysis between fixed and variable costs in your department. The power costs do not seem to fit into either category. Either the de- to fit into either category easily. The details are as follows. We have week 1 to week 7. We have power cost. We have machine hour. Week 1, the power cost is 3,600, while the machine hour is 8,000. Week 2, power cost 3,960, machine hour 9,000. Week 3, 3,015 naira for power cost, while the machine hour is 6,005. Week 4, power cost 3,380, machine hour 7,400. Week 5, 3,870 for power cost, while the machine hour is 8,006. Week 6, 4,020 naira for power cost, machine hour 9,200. Week 7, 2,095 for power cost, while the machine hour is 3,700.
Now, let's interpret this question. To use high and low method, you actually look at the level of activity and the cost and the total cost. And don't forget that cost is what? The total cost is the semi-variable cost, which we need to separate the element. What's the element? Fixed cost is the element, and variable cost is the element. I've given you a formula for the total cost or total semi-variable cost. Now, we look at the highest and the lowest. That's why we call it high and low. Highest and the lowest level of activity. And what is the level of activity here? That is the quantity. The level of activity is the machine hours. The level of activity is the machine hours, which is also the quantity. I told you when we started this course that what we do is we produce products, commodities, and what? Services. And services is measured in hours. Products, some products are measured in units, some are measured in kilograms, some are measured in grams, and other type of measurements. But many times, services is measured in hours and is a product. I gave you an example when I asked you, you are a product of which school? Particularly your foundation. You will say, I'm a product of Phronesis, professional tutors. When it comes to ICANN, for foundation that you have passed, you are what? A product of Phronesis, professional tutors. Your university, you are a product of so university. You are a product of so secondary school. You are a product of so primary school. But they rendered service to you, so you became a product. You were the product they were servicing then. So as it were, I'm servicing you. So I can measure you in labor hours. I can measure you if you are using machine to do the production in machine hours. So the level of activity is the machine hour. So if you look at the high and low, you get the corresponding cost. You get the corresponding cost. Now the highest figure of the level of activity, which is in hours, is 9,200. And corresponding cost in the question is 4,020 naira. The same goes for the lowest. The lowest figure of level of activity is 3,700 hours. The corresponding cost is 2,095. You minus the low from the high for both level of activity and cost, corresponding cost. For level of activity, you have 5,500 hours as the net figure. For cost, you have 1,925. To get your variable cost per unit per hour, it will be equal to 1,925 naira divided by 5,500 naira, which will be equal to 0 naira 35 kobo. That is 35 kobo per hour. 35 kobo per hour. That will be the variable cost. Now, we will now move forward to answer to determine our element of fixed cost. The element of fixed cost are required by the question. Using A plus B. To do that, let us solve on this board into equation. So we say this is a equation 1. Equation 1. And this is equation 2. That's from figure 2. This is equation 1, this is from figure 2. Now, equals to A plus B S. What is our B? And what is our S? And what is our total? If we substitute in equation 1, we can substitute in equation 1 or 2, depending on which one you want. Which one do we use? 1 or 2?
Anyone. I can use anyone.
Anyone.
What is the lowest? Yes.
I wanted you to choose so that don't be like say I choose. Anyone you use will still give you the same fixed cost. I don't want to, pretend. You choose. Anyone choose, you will get the same. Just tell me one.
Choose the lowest.
Choose one. 1 or 2.
The lowest.
Choose one. Choose one equation. Choose one. Choose. Okay, you want to choose the low. That is equation 2. Now, let's. What is y? Y is 2,095 equals to A. We don't know A. We are looking for A. Plus, what is B? B is 35 kobo. 0.35 times what is X? X is the level of activity. Remember my graph. What is X? 3,700. I put it in brackets. Now, what is 0.35 times 3,700? Figure. That would be 2,095 minus equals to A plus, what's the figure here? Figure 0.35 plus 3,700.
1295. 295. 1295.
115.
1295.
95. Now, we want to move this one to this place. It become a minus. That would be 2095. That's A equals to 2095 minus 1295. Figure. So A will be what? 2095 minus 1295. Figure.
800.
Hello, this is 0.
800.
800. So our A is 800. So our fixed cost is 800. Our fixed cost is 800. Now, I want you to use equation 1 to determine the cost and see whether it give us the same thing. We substituted in equation 2 and we got 800. You go ahead and substitute in equation 1. 2 minutes. Resume recording. This is number 1 part of it, question 1 that we are just done. Now, question, we are able to get our fixed cost and variable cost. And I told you that variable cost is constant, irrespective of level. Variable cost per unit is constant, irrespective of level of activity. Then our fixed cost is a period cost. Our fixed cost is also a period cost. So I want to clean this. Are you writing it down? Hello? Yes. I can. Now, question 2 said we should not use our fixed cost that we determine and the variable cost, which is y equals to a plus bx, to determine the level of what the total cost will be at the level of activity, at the level of activity of 8,000 hours and 12,000 hours respectively. So I will be 8,000, I will be doing 12,000. Now y is equals to A is 800 plus what is our B? 8,000 hours multiplied by x 0.35 combo. That will give us 800 plus 8,000 times 0.35. What do I think? Figure.
2,800.
2,800. add them together, it will out to what? 3,600 naira. So you see that the total cost at level of activity of 8,000 will be 3,600. So we can predict or estimate any level of activity. We can estimate it. Any level of activity that we want. If we want 8,000, we can get the total cost. Having been able to, separate the cost. That is why we do high and low method or separation, to be able to do what? To estimate the cost, estimate our cost. I'm following. To estimate our cost. To estimate our cost. So that's what it is. Now, I want you to use level of activity of 12,000 and calculate your now you can easily estimate the cost of your level of activities for decision making. But sometimes there will be issue of inflation. Because many a time, if you are comparing periods like previous year and this current year, you will notice that the price index must have changed due to inflation. In this part of the world that we are in, many times, you see that inflation affects our price index. It keeps on going up. And if it keeps on going up like that, it affects our estimate. It means that sometimes our estimate will be wrong if we do not bring in inflation. If we do not bring in inflation. That will now take us to the next question that I sent to you. I want you to write down the of the next question. That's the illustration number 2 that I sent to you. Write it down now. The question. You are required. Roman figure 1. Calculate the real fixed and variable cost. The real fixed and variable cost. Immediately you see the real, what is telling you is that the price index has been affected by inflation. The price index has been affected by inflation. So that's why you have real figure and money figure. Anytime you hear money cost or money revenue, what we are saying is that it is not affected by inflation. But when they say real, when you see a question in ICANN, it's talking about real. It's telling you that something has affected the change, and you need to do what? Discount it using that variable that affected your calculations. So you have to use that variable to remove inflation for it. The number 2 question says, estimate what the total cost will be next year when it is expected that there will be 4% cost inflation. cost inflation. They are being specific now. We have general inflation. We have specific inflation. Many times in our FM, when we are doing our investment appraisals, we have inflation that affects specifically some type of machines. So they will give you specific inflation and general inflation. General inflation it affects no matter the commodity. We have general inflation, whether it is beans, rice, machine. We have one general inflation that affects them. But specifically, there are some machines, there are some equipment, there are some materials, there are some items that have specific inflations. So many times when you are giving specific inflation, you will know. Like they said, cost inflation. They're telling you that this inflation only affects cost. It does not affect sales. It does not affect any other item or classification in your preparation of your accounts. So that's why they told you cost inflation. So the question 2 says, estimate what the total cost will be next year when it is expected that there will be 4% cost inflation and output will be 70,000 units. That is, you are required. Now, it is for you to now determine what? To determine to read the question itself. Read the question for me. Fire, please. Read the question. Fire. Fire on.
So the
I'm
cost
waiting.
data limited have been recorded over 2 years. Thus, last year current production 60,000 units for last year, while 54,000 units for current year. 1,820,000 for last, while for current year 1,961,400 for current year. Between last year and current year, there has been 5% cost inflation.
Between last year and current year, there has been 5% cost inflation. So what they are saying is that the current year has been affected by 5% inflation. That is, it increased by 5%. What do? You decrease it by that 5%. That, so affected. What do? You decrease it by that 5%. That is to say, you divide 1,961,400. You divide it by 1.05. That is 100 plus 5%. That would be 1.05. 100 plus 5% will be 1.05. So recording. I'm recording. Having defects the figure for correct of 19,400, I can go ahead and use my high and low method to separate the cost in order to obtain the fixed cost. And now I'm going to get the variable cost per unit at 12 naira. We are going to substitute. Now, we will turn our figures up. This one will be equation 1. And this one will be equation 2. Now, where do we substitute? Let's choose equation 1 or 2. Brilliant students. Choose equation 1 or
Equation 2.
2. Or what? Equation 2. Okay. Substitute in equation 2 using the formula y equals to what? A plus bx. That is the linear relationship between cost and total cost, fixed cost, and total cost. The linear relationship is y equals to A plus bx. So let's substitute in equation 2. And equation 2 is total cost is what? 1,820,000. 1,820,000. Equals to what is A? We don't know. That's what we are looking for. Then plus B. B is what? 12 naira times X. What's the 60,000? Then we have 182000 equals to A plus, I think this is 720,000. I think this is 720,000. Are we there? So our A equals to 1,820,000 minus 720,000 equals to what? Figure.
1,100,000.
I can see 0. Sorry?
1,100,000.
1,100,000. 1,100,000 naira in naira. So that is our fixed cost. That is our fixed cost. Our fixed cost is 1,100,000. While our variable cost per unit is 12 naira.